Hello and welcome to the first episode of a new sporting podcast, Under the Floodlights, with me, Elliot Cuff, and my co-host, Gavin Barrett. This is basically an idea we've had for a long time to sort of review and discuss and debate sort of the sporting news of the week just gone by, chuck it online and see what people think. We're really hoping that it'll be quite an interesting thing and that people will like it. But if not, we really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. So we'll get on with introducing ourselves. Gav, want to take the lead?
I'm Gavin Barrett. I'm a sports journalist at the University of Gloucestershire in my final year. I'm a massive sport fan, enthusiast in multiple different sports. I love the Scarlets in rugby, Manchester United are my football team, which probably won't go down too well with a lot of the viewers. It's pretty much, we've thought about this for a while, and us two and our producer Marcus in the studio.
Yeah, big shout out to Marcus Stanley in the booth. His idea.
Yeah, so we thought we'd give it a go and see how it goes with all of you back home. So I hope you all enjoy it and keep listening.
Obviously you know my name, Elliot. We're both sports journalism students at the University of Gloucestershire, in Cheltenham, in England. I'm a massive football fan. That's kind of my bread and butter. Everton is my team. I don't really, I like a lot of sport, not quite as much as Gav. I'm not a big keen follower of the egg chaser sport that he is fascinated with, but yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing sort of where this goes. We have a couple of discussion points we want to touch on today. Obviously, with the transfer deadline day in football coming next week, that'll be quite a big thing, and obviously lead up to the Six Nations. So We're going to try and not touch too much on that today, but we got a little bit. But first of all, there was breaking news this morning that Watford manager Marco Silva was sacked. He has only been at the club since the beginning of the season. There were offers for him from Everton 2 months ago, maybe. But Watford hung on, saying that he was a big manager with a lot of potential, young, really talented. And now they've gone and sacked him after being on a poor run. So we're going to discuss that. So what do you think of that decision? It's quite a rash decision, or do you think it's calculated considering how poor they are at the moment?
I think it's a very rash decision at the moment because obviously he's a very good manager with good potential. He's shown what he's done earlier in the season. Obviously, which I didn't get in the statement, which we'll discuss after, is they try blaming obviously Everton for the bad run results, which I think is shocking. But but the run results, they've one win in the last 11 games, 11 losses in the last 16 games. They're only 5 points off the playoffs despite being 10th. So results-wise, you can see why they gone for it. But as a good manager as he is, and the potential he does have, it's a bit of a rash decision at the moment.
It certainly does seem so. I'll just, while I'm talking, I'll pull up the statement from Watford they released today. Watford today put on their website and on obviously their social media channels, they said that, Watford Football Club has parted company with Marco Silva. This has been a difficult decision and one not taken lightly. The club is convinced the appointment of Silva was the right one, and had it not been for the unwarranted approach by a Premier League rival for his services, we would have continued to prosper under his leadership. The catalyst for this decision is that unwarranted approach, something which the board believes has seen a significant deterioration in both focus and results, to the point where the long-term future of Watford FC has been jeopardised. So basically, that's one big finger pointing straight at Everton. Everton, if you don't know, sacked Ronald Koeman in October. I should know the dates, but I don't. October, early November. In late November, December time, they approached Watford with a first £10 million offer for their manager services, and then £15 to £20 million, and Watford rejected it because, he was seen as quite a talented manager. When he came over to Hull last season, he was really impressive. So, but it's just a bit bizarre that they've basically blamed Everton for everything that their club can't do at the moment. All their failings are Everton's fault, and that just doesn't seem right. Yeah,
I completely agree with you, but it's just a massive coincidence that suddenly the results have started deteriorating since Everton approached them. But you can't really blame another club for your own club's failings. It's just impossible to think that. I won't be surprised to see him snapped up by another club pretty soonish. I won't be surprised if Southampton end up sacking Pellegrino and bringing in Marco Silva.
That could be.
That's something that I think will be looked at soon, maybe. But he won't find any problems getting another job. Obviously, Watford now looks like they're going to appoint Javi Gracia, ex-Ruben Kazan and Malaga boss. What was your thoughts on maybe him becoming the new manager on a 2-year deal?
I'm not overly familiar with his managerial career at the moment. And like you say, he left Rubin Kazan at the end of last season, mutual agreement, after leading to an 8th place finish, and was with Malaga the season before that. And it's very much been Watford's sort of ethos over the last couple of years to bring in these new talented foreign managers to the English shores and see how they develop and how they do. So some of them have been hits, like West Brom's Pepe Mel was a big disappointment. Watford's Walter Mazzari was so-so. Some of them have worked. So others like Kike Sanchez Flores and Slavisa Jokanovic were really impressive. So I don't know where I see it. It depends. I don't know where it could go. It could be a really positive move for them, but I do think it is strange. I saw someone tweet today saying that instead of pointing the finger at Everton, maybe Watford should consider the fact that they've sacked 7 managers in 6 years. And that stability doesn't help clubs develop and move forward. And if they looked at their own sort of policy with cutting managers loose too soon.
What I will say with that is I saw the same tweet you're on about, but it weren't 7 sackings technically as well. A lot of them were either the managers wanted to leave or the contract situations just they didn't agree on.
Yeah, but for instance,
a lot of them were 1-year deals and they ended up just leaving.
But that's an issue in itself. Slavisa Jokanovic wanted a certain amount of money when he got them promoted to the Premier League. He's only the 4th foreign manager ever to get promoted to the Premier League, and they didn't give it to him. And that doesn't make any sense. You've built a team playing good football, and you don't give him the contract he wants when it wasn't completely absurd demands. And then Kike Sanchez Flores, they sacked him, and he had a great season. He led them to a top half finish, and then see you later, we want to go a different direction. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, Kike Sanchez Flores was obviously wanted recently back in the Premier League by Stoke, yeah. So he obviously turned them down. Can't blame him after what happened with him in Watford in the Premier League. And
it seemed to benefit because his Espanyol side ended Barcelona's unbeaten run last week. So.
Yeah, so that's another good statement for him as a manager. But you've got to look at, basically, Watford need to look at themselves first before they start blaming other clubs, other players, other teams. It's their own failings that are doing it. They're still 10th in the Premier League. They're still in a good position to stay up. They've got a decent squad. Apparently the new manager, Javi Gracia, will have enough funds to spend in the January transfer window now, from here to the deadline day.
That's one other thing I think. It's very bizarre to sack the manager in the middle of the transfer window, because you think he has all this time now to try and sign his new players and whatnot, and you've just got rid of him. So thankfully they've got in this Javi Gracia quite quick, but it doesn't leave him much time to first reassess his squad, and secondly find players that he can get in a notoriously tough window. It's bizarre.
It's kind of similar with Stoke, really, though. Obviously they sacked Mark Hughes,
but I suppose with Stoke they had no other option.
Yeah, they had no other option. But the point of Paul Lambert's probably one of the most, if you're a Stoke fan, disheartening, underwhelming appointments.
That said, he did, they won 2-0.
They did win 2-0 in his first game, so they're on the up at the moment, but it looks a bit.
Yeah.
At least got a Joe Allen, but yeah.
Well, I wouldn't quite go that far. We're going to get an awful lot of this. He's Welsh. If you hadn't already guessed by his annoying accent, so we're bound to get an awful lot of absurd comments about the Welsh. I do apologise.
True comments.
Do apologise. Anyway, so we're not going to talk too much about the transfer market and signings that have been done or will be done until next week when it's more relevant. But the big deal in terms of the Premier League that's happening or will happen in the next sort of 7 days, it could even have happened before this comes out, is the Alexis Sanchez, Henrikh Mkhitaryan trade with Arsenal and Manchester United. What are your thoughts on that? As a Manchester United fan, obviously you're losing someone you paid quite a lot of money from when you bought him from Borussia Dortmund 18 months ago or 2 years ago. And Sanchez is a top player, played for Barcelona. What are your thoughts? Are you happy with it?
Yeah, on paper, obviously it's a great deal for us. Sanchez is a better player than Mkhitaryan at the moment. I do feel sorry for Mkhitaryan for obviously it's not worked out at United as well as we hoped or as he hoped. He could have. I think his confidence has just been shot completely this season under Mourinho. When he does play, he doesn't seem to have any confidence in his own ability. I was up at Old Trafford for the Southampton game just before the New Year, and every time he got into a good position, he fluffed a cross, he fluffed a chance, anything we created going forward, he was just a catalyst in it breaking down. So, but he is a good player. I've seen that at Dortmund. You've seen it at the start of the season with United. It's just his confidence that is shot. And obviously, when you get a chance to sign someone the quality of Alexis Sanchez, you can't really turn that down. Something that I think every Man United fan will agree is a good deal for the club. Arsenal are losing Sanchez anyway, so it's a good deal for them as well. So I think it's a good deal for both clubs. It's a win-win for each club, especially if Arsenal do sign Aubameyang, which they're linked to as well. So obviously Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang worked together at Dortmund, and they had a good partnership up there. So and if they keep
I think when he was there, he was one of the best attacking midfielders in Europe.
Yeah, the most assists.
Yeah,
I think out of anyone.
Assists, yeah.
So that obviously when we signed him, I was happy. Sadly, just hasn't worked out. Hopefully Sanchez will come in. Obviously used to the Premier League. We know what he can do. The quality he's got.
World class quality.
Exactly. And without this season, we've struggled to create in the opposition half when we don't have Pogba. So hopefully now we have obviously Pogba and Lingard's in form, and Sanchez will add just another dimension to our attack and be able to create and score more goals.
Who do you think he will replace? Because at the moment you have Juan Mata, who plays an awful lot. Anthony Martial's starting to find his place in this team as a regular. Obviously Jesse Lingard has been in the form of his life this season. One of them has to miss out. I mean, Lukaku's not going to miss out up front. Who would you know? Matt is older, so maybe there's merit to that. Jesse Lingard and Martial are still young; they have time to develop and improve. But where would you see him fitting in now?
I think it's going to be instead of Mata. I think Mata hasn't had a great season, to be honest. If most United fans would agree, hopefully, but he hasn't been good. He's busy slowing down when we're attacking. Our attacking play wanted to be quick passing, but he keeps slowing everything down. And at the moment, I think he needs to be dropped for someone who will play a bit more tagging. Martial's in a good form at the moment. Obviously scored the winner yesterday against Burnley. Lukaku's not going to get dropped with those Mourinho. He's played every single Premier League game this season except for the one he missed after the Southampton one because of his head injury. I think it's going to be Martial and Sanchez probably the side of Lukaku when Sanchez does eventually sign, and then you've got Pogba and Matic behind them, and probably another midfielder, Lingard, in there as well, in the 10 role.
Yeah, I would have put money on Lingard losing his place, which I think is exceptionally harsh because I do think I was never a big fan of Lingard when he first came into Man United first team squad. I thought he was quite overrated. He was a player who was a bit flashy. He's more well known for his dance moves on social media than he is for anything he does on the pitch. And then this season he really has shown why Alex Ferguson said back at the day that he'd be a late bloomer, because he really has sort of come into his own. But with the position he plays, which is normally in the centre, and with the fact that Alexis Sanchez a lot of the time for Arsenal played as a second striker or as a leading striker if needed, I could quite easily see him playing off of Lukaku in the centre to try and have a bit more of a link-up play between the two of them. He can bring better support to Lukaku. Lukaku can hold the ball up for Sanchez, which, unless they're going to put Lingard out wide, would mean Lingard would miss out. And I think for England that's a big shame because he's been so good going into the World Cup. We'd like him to play more and more and more. But, you know, Man United have their own agenda. They want to try and fight for the Premier League title. So that's where I'd be leaning. But, I mean, you're more acclimatised to what Man United would do.
I can't see Lingard missing out for a couple of reasons. Obviously, as you said, he's in the form of his life at the moment. He's scoring, assisting, he's creating problems for opposition defences. But also, Mourinho seems to really like him, not just for his offensive work, but he's really good without the ball. And defensively, he tracks back and he's really helpful, which is the type of player Mourinho has always admired. I just can't see Lingard being dropped. Maybe now and again, but if he's playing for his strongest 11, I can see Lingard being in that 10 role with Sanchez and Martial probably either side. He's probably more likely to keep Lingard than he is Martial in that starting 11 as well if you're going to go. I think Lingard, out of the Mata, Lingard, Martial probably the last one to be dropped.
The only thing I'd say to that though is Man United would have to weigh up whether they want to play their best players or their best team. Because if Alexis Sanchez helps bring out more in Romelu Lukaku and also he adds the significant goal threat himself, then it would make more sense for him to come in as it would make them a better attacking cohesive unit. Lingard would then miss out, and yes, he's one of the better players at the moment, but it would help the team more. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but I feel it still
depends on where they go. I
feel he still move Lingard to the wing if he decided to do that instead of Mata, because I think Lingard obviously is better defensively than Mata is as well. So I think
the benefit as well, he has the pace and the ability to run the challenge.
So I think when it comes to it, I think Mata will be the one to be dropped out of the team at the moment for those 11.
Okay. So the other thing we're going to talk about as well, because it's all over the news all the time at the moment.
Yeah.
Positives and negatives. People debating whether it's useful or not. is VAR, video assistant referee or video assisted referee. I don't quite know what the A stands for, but it's something along those lines. And it's basically, you know, if you hadn't already heard about it, the referee can now call on the fourth official or a separate official to review instances, and he can make a more informed decision through video replay.
A bit like TMO in rugby.
Yeah, like TMO in rugby. There's and the review system, I suppose, in cricket.
Yeah.
And there have been positives. Kelechi Iheanacho, good pub quiz answer this, is the first player to ever score in this country.
Which was a great decision. Luckily, obviously, the VAR was available for that.
He scored for Leicester in the cup game the other day. The first goal assisted by VAR. But in the game the other day, the Chelsea-Norwich, was it?
Yeah, I think
cup
so.
Game, there was an awful lot of contentious debate over diving and penalty decisions. Willian should have been given a clear penalty.
Pedro
and it wasn't given.
Apparently Pedro did dive.
Pedro dived, and he was booked. That's another debate as well. We have the diving thing. That's something we can come on to in another week.
Yeah,
and that's a problem.
Different podcast.
But,
that's for
yeah,
longer
that's a whole different thing. But yeah, what are your thoughts on VAR? Because an awful lot of people think it's fantastic, best thing to happen for sport. Others think it's detrimental to the sport and it's really going to have damaging effect. Where do you stand on the spectrum?
I think it's something that needs to come in. Obviously, you've got to evolve as a sport. Rugby's evolved, cricket's evolved, like you said, with the TMO, with the decision system in cricket. It just needs to be something that evolves into football now. Obviously, the referees at the moment are struggling. They're getting a lot of criticism. Obviously, with all the cameras, when you have a decision, it's going to be highlighted when it's wrong. So I think VAR helps them out a little bit. But you also got to be able to use it, because obviously, as we said in the Chelsea-Norwich game, the referee decided not to use it when he probably should have a couple of times. It's still always going to be the referee's last word, but you've got to be able to use it correctly and in the right manner. I think it's something that needs to come in, though, definitely into football to evolve the sport, and obviously in order to get less decisions wrong.
Yeah, that's the thing, I suppose. When it works, it's fantastic, because like you say, with Kelechi Iheanacho's goal, it was a goal, and it's good that things like that prove, you know, you haven't been robbed of that. You haven't had that advantage taken away from you when you really deserved it. But the flip side is that obviously the way it works is the referee dictates when it's used. So if the referee makes a decision and says, right, that was a penalty or that was not a penalty, if he is absolutely certain in his mind that he is right, he will not use the AI. He doesn't need it because he knows he's right. But he could be wrong. That's the issue. It's so unless you're going to enforce it, but then you have the issue of how much do you enforce it. You can't use it for every foul. So no. I think it's difficult because there's an awful lot of things they need to improve. In Australia, they've used it for a couple of years now. In the Hyundai A-League, and the issue they have over there is it slows the game down a lot, because that's one complaint I saw in the Leicester game, is that it took an awful long time for the referee to sort of evaluate what's going on, talking in his headpiece, and the fans are sat there not having any idea what's going on. They sort of half cheered and then gone, "Oh, I don't really know. What am I meant to be cheering at?" They don't know what's going on, which is poor for the fan going experience. But also it leaves the option open for another referee to make an error, because there are several penalties that are in a grey area. You might think it's Stonewall. I might think it's never in a million years. Much like one that comes to mind is Sadio Mane's sending off.
Yeah, Man City game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the problem with that is you then have a referee making a decision on this replay, which could still be wrong. He could just have a different opinion to the vast majority of people, and then you still wrongly sent someone off or wrongly denied someone something.
Because as we obviously at the time, I think me and you disagreed on that decision, the Mane instant. So as you said, it's different point of views. Because obviously, if I was the fourth official or whatever it is, and I would have said obviously it's not a red card, but if you were the fourth official, you would have sent him off. So you have that. It's still going to be an area.
No bias. I swear to God, no bias. I would have sent him off.
But there's an issue there where it's still going to be grey areas regarding a lot of decisions. I think the decisions that's got to be mainly used. Obviously, you've got goal line technology at the moment, so obviously that's fine.
That's fantastic.
Penalty decisions need to be used mainly, because that's obviously where most of the decisions come into. Because obviously you're more likely to score a penalty than you are a free kick. Yeah, just obvious fact. But yeah, so I think that's what you've got to use it the most when it comes to penalty decisions, tough calls. Maybe maybe a challenge. Do you think might be a red card? But not 100% sure. Something you can check. Something like I think those type of decisions are the ones that need to be used for VAR. I'm not sure if you agree with that.
Yeah,
or not,
well, like you say, the benefits are quite clear. It makes so many different decisions that would otherwise ruin a game or severely affect a team. It can clear those things up. It's just using it in the right manner, like you said before, and also figuring out a way to make it a lot fairer and a lot quicker, because it's not fair if fans are sat around a minute after the goal's gone in. Play hasn't resumed and they're thinking, oh, I don't know what's going on. Have we scored? Have we not scored? Are we now winning? Are we still losing? Are we going out of the cup? Are we back in it? Or it needs to be a lot quicker, I think. But yeah, there's an awful lot that can be done with it, and I think it is definitely a positive step forward, like goal line technology was, which is fantastic. That's great. That's great. So if they can get it to a similar point where goal line technology is, where it's so influential and important, then I'm all for it. I'm all for fairer results.
Do you think they should just take it like they do in rugby? Have a team already there as a fourth official, ready for any decisions that need to be reviewed. So then you can suddenly have a earpiece in your ear and you can just tell you yes or no.
Yeah, I think so. It needs to be a lot quicker. But also, they need, if they are going to go to a TMO of sorts, they need to have a screen in the ground.
Yes, so the
fans need to see what's going on. In rugby, they do it. You can see what's going on. You can see what they're looking at. I think everyone needs to be able to.
So everyone's on the edge of the seats. Yeah, I
exactly,
completely agree with that. Obviously, onto rugby as well, since we're talking about it. The Six Nations starting in a couple of weeks.
They do.
Where obviously in the following podcast there'll be plenty of debate and banter between the Welsh and the English, as my co-host is. Obviously, the Six Nations squads were announced this week. The Wales squad, obviously, I'm very happy with. A couple of new players in it. James Davis, been the best 7 in the country for the last 2 or 3 years. He's finally got his chance. Finally, Warren Gatland's called him up. Also another one, Josh Adams, who plays in the Aviva Premiership with Worcester. Blistering pace, great try scorer. Obviously, as I said, top try scorer in the Aviva. Obviously, I'm very happy with both them, including the Welsh squad. I want to see what your opinion is on the England squad, though. Obviously, there's a few injuries missing, the same as Wales. We've got a few injuries. But what's your opinion on the current state of the English squad and what Eddie Jones decided to go with for the current campaign?
Well, as someone who doesn't follow rugby too much, I could be completely wrong, and everyone who watches this could think it's a horrendous squad, it's an awful squad, or how could you possibly say it's not an awful squad? But I'm quite happy with it, because I think Eddie Jones has done quite well since he became England manager of bringing in these new players in and sort of getting them through the, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but bringing new players through into the fold, because you need to keep bringing on young talent. So there's 8 uncapped players in the squad, which is good. A couple of unfortunate ones, such as is it Zach Mercer? Zach Mercer at number 8, because of obviously, and he's not a natural number 8, but we're missing Nathan Hughes and Billy Vanapola for injury. But I think there's an awful lot of big names there that you'd expect, the likes of Owen Farrell and George Ford and Jonathan Joseph, and we got the key players, Mike Brown,
Anthony Watson.
Anthony Watson, yeah. I'm quite happy with what we've got. It'd be interesting to see how he chooses to line up in the first game. Obviously, Joe Marler and James Haskell are banned for the first game, because of issues in their club.
Do you think? Would you like to see Eddie Jones bring in the uncapped players and give them a chance, give them an opportunity? People like Simmons, for example, or Mercer to play a chance in the back row. Someone like that to give a chance for the new players to shine and obviously bring them into the fold ahead, looking forward to the 2019 World Cup.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense. You have an awful lot of players that are getting older or are becoming less reliable, and I think it always makes sense to bring in new players. They have a couple of the younger backs that have been around the squad for the last year, 18 months, in Deli Solomona and Ben Teo.
Nathan Earl as well.
And so I like the way they're going. And with the last Six Nations last time? I think Ben Teo was fantastic. So I like the way they're bringing these players in. And if they keep doing that, especially ahead of the World Cup, we had a miserable World Cup last time. So it will definitely be a good idea to try and bring in this new crop of players who can be more important going forward into the next one. But more importantly, because you're the rugby expert here. What do you think of your Welsh squad in general? I know you said you got a couple of new players in, a couple that are missing, but what is your general take?
Overall, very happy. It's probably the best squad Gatland's named in a long time. James Davis has been knocking on the door for, like I said, 2 or 3 years. Been the best 7 in the country for 2 or 3 years. He's finally got his chance. He's shown in Europe this season how good he is. He's just an incredible player. He's just so good over the ball. His fitness levels are second to none. Yesterday when we defeated Toulon, he made 21 tackles, which showed how good he is in defence. as well as obviously when we're in the front foot. So I'm really happy he's in. Obviously, as a Scots fan myself as well, there's no bias in that. I think most rugby fans would agree that Davis should be in the squad. Then you obviously got Josh Adams, who everyone's happy with as well. Like I said, blistering pace, top try scorer in the Aviva Premiership with a struggling Worcester side, in all honesty. So that shows the quality he has. The current issue is at the moment, obviously, Rhys Priestland had to pull out the squad injured after the Bath Scarlets game last week, and Dan Biggar went off holding his shoulder yesterday. Obviously, I'm not sure how bad his injury is at the moment, but that leaves us a bit short of 10 at the moment. So I think who is going to start 10 against Scotland is going to be the main question that pops up on people's timelines this week. I'd go with Rhys Patchell myself. He's probably is the third in line anyway. He's been really good for Scarlets. The problem is recently he's been playing fullback for Scarlets and he's been exceptional. So he also gives that attacking threat from fullback if we wanted to play him there. And then if you did want to do that, then obviously 10, we got other options. Owen Williams, who played 12 for us in the autumn. And also got Gareth Anscombe then from the Blues, but he's also been playing fullback for the Blues at the moment. So there's a lot of different options Wales could go with, a lot of different partnerships. They might mix it up a little bit. But I'm really excited for the Six Nations for the squad he's named, because it's
safe to say they've got an awful lot of their main players in it. The likes of
we've got
Toby Faletau and Alan Jones, and
we've got a few injuries currently that who have been named. Obviously, Glasgow and Jones. Faletau's currently injured at the moment, but he's been named in the squad. George North has made his return this weekend. Liam Williams had to pull out injured yesterday, but should be fit for the Six Nations. Obviously, fantastic player. And then in the pack, then the Scarlets front row have been exceptional over the last 2 weeks, destroying Bath scrum last week and holding their own yesterday against a strong Toulon pack. Rob Evans, Ken Owens and Samson Lee have been exceptional, and I think they will be the starting front row. Obviously got Alan Jones then, who just seems to get better with age. He just keeps going.
Like a fine wine.
Yeah, like a fine wine. Then another tough choice would be whether they're going to partner with him in the second row, with Jake Ball injured. There's plenty of different options. I'd like to see Aaron Shingler have a go in the second row despite playing 6 for Scarlets, because it allows us to play an extra back row in which we are a very strong area, in which we got, I was thinking Moriarty will probably end up starting 8, or Josh Navidi maybe, and then you've got James Davis, Justin Tipperick, Ellis Jenkins. We got a really strong back row. That's probably where we're strongest at the moment. So yeah, I'm really happy with the squad. Looking forward to the Six Nations. It's exciting. I think all Welsh fans, on the majority, are happy with it. Obviously, you feel sorry for a couple of players who've been missed out, like Thomas Young, been exceptional for the Wasps in the Premiership. That's the only player I'd say I would like to have seen in it as well. Other than him, I think I'm really happy with the rest of the squad at the moment.
That was quite a dive into Welsh rugby. It was very detailed. I can't really offer the same level of information when it comes to England or any. And I haven't seen any of the other squads. I don't know what the rest of the nations are shaping up.
They look quite. Scotland's squad looks really strong. Same as the autumn. They're really strong. In the autumn. They could be a big challenger to the title, and obviously Ireland are always strong, so they'll always obviously be another contender for the title. It's going to be a competitive and tough Six Nations, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As much as I don't really follow rugby too much, whenever the Six Nations are on, it's always really good. To go to the pub and have a couple of beers and really enjoy the games, because rugby is entertaining. And when it's England against Wales or England against Scotland, there's always that little bit extra. So
make sure you keep an eye out for that podcast that week.
We'll win, don't worry.
And hopefully the week after, if we win.
Don't stress about it. We'll be fine.
One of us might not be here the week after.
Yeah. I'll be back home in England. You live here. Don't criticise us too much.
Obviously, then keeping with rugby as well, the Champions Cup this weekend, final round. Looking forward to the quarterfinals in a few time. Obviously, my team, the Scarlets. After losing the first 2 group stage games, obviously it was a difficult ask to qualify from there. But only the third team to lose their first 2 games and still qualify of the group. Obviously, we defeated Bath and Toulon the last 2 weeks. 2 exceptional performances. Held our nerve yesterday. It shows we got the grit to go with our flair. But English teams, Aviva Premiership teams, none of them can win their group. The only team that could qualify now is Saracens, and that's not even guaranteed. It depends on other results today. Obviously, this will go out on Tuesday, so by now we'd know if Saracens qualify or not, but at the moment we currently don't. So what do you think the situation is between the English teams? Because everyone's always on about how good the Aviva Premiership is and how much is better than the Pro 14 and how much is better than the Top 14. But yet, the teams who qualified so far, you've got 3 Irish teams, a Welsh team, and a French team. Why do you think's going wrong with English teams in Europe this season?
See, I liken it a lot to the way the Premier League works and the way that the Premier League is criticised. The Premier League is regarded by an awful lot of people as the best league in the world. Anywhere in the world, any player from any nation wants to play in the Premier League. It's the best league in the world. And then people will say this year is different because people are a bit more successful. Man City are on a roll. All of the clubs in the Champions League qualified to the knockout stages, but ordinarily they haven't in the last couple of years. People have gone, how can you say it's the best league in the world when all your teams lose or your teams don't qualify? And it's separate being the best league in the world and having the best teams in the world, because the league itself is really competitive. It's really strong. You never know who can win, who's going to end up where. Outside of that, on the continent, it's a completely different ball game. So with rugby, yes, the league, the Aviva Premiership, is fantastic. It's good fun to watch. But there's no guarantee that those clubs on the continent will be any better than anyone else, just because the league's strong. So what I would say to the fact that English clubs have struggled this season is just they're not good enough. If they had the ability to reach those rounds and whatnot, then they would do. But they obviously, whether it's form or whether it's personnel or coaching or anything, they're obviously just not good enough to get to the stage that the other clubs have done.
Do you feel a part of the reason the English teams have struggled? Something I saw the other day, since the Lions tour, obviously the English Lions they've played more minutes than any of the other Lions from the other nations since coming back into the leagues. Do you feel like fatigue could have a question in any of it, because they have played a lot more minutes with their clubs, and because people say the Aviva Premiership is more competitive, they can't rest their players as much as say Pro 14 teams can or Top 14 teams can? Do you think that is an issue on the English teams?
Yeah, it certainly adds to it. I think, especially with rugby, which is such a physically demanding game. If you do have to play too many games, you might carry little knocks here and there. It's bound to weigh in over the course of the season. It's going to affect how people play and how people perform. It's tough. And I think it's disappointing from an England fan perspective that no one is there to represent us this season. But you just hope that the Welsh lose.
Especially when it's my team as well.
I'm voting for the French all the way through. That's where we're going to go.
Or the Irish. But Leinster, the only team to go 6 for 6 at the moment, so they look the team to beat. Obviously, I fancy our chances against anyone we play. Obviously, we defeated Toulon yesterday, defeated Bath last week. We've got the grit, we've got the flair, we've got the players, we've got the quality to go all the way. But it depends who we get. It looks like we're probably going to end up playing away to probably one of the Irish teams or La Rochelle French. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm confident we can go quite far in the competition, quite deep. But I think Leinster are the team to beat at the moment, because we've got 6 for 6. You can't argue with that, and the strength and depth they have is second to none in Europe, to be honest.
You certainly hope they can get there anyway. Well, you would.
I would, yeah.
Moving on from rugby, because that's about all we are. That's about all I can do with rugby. We'll move on to the boxing. So there's been quite a few boxing stories in the last couple of weeks. Probably the most well-known is probably Anthony Joshua, and we'll touch on that in a second. But the biggest news, really, is Tyson Fury is getting ever closer to being back. So the I can't think of the name of the board, but whoever's in charge of the that's the one. They said that Tyson Fury can have his boxing license back if he can provide new medical forms, basically, to make sure he's now where he should be in terms of his
bad substances. Yeah.
So, how do you feel about him coming back? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. He just adds another person in the already thriving heavyweight division. Obviously, you want the best fighters to be able to fight the best, and obviously having Fury back, it brings in another fighter. So people like Joshua, people like Wilder, can obviously fight with and compete with. It'll bring in more fights, more people to watch boxing. Someone like Fury with his personality. Obviously, everyone loves watching him in press conferences. His Twitter, his Facebook.
Everyone's a strong way to go with that.
All right, maybe not everyone loves it. Everyone watches it.
It's entertaining.
Whether they find it entertaining or not, they will watch it. If you like him or not, you will watch it. So that's the thing with him. It's similar with McGregor in UFC. Obviously, they're entertaining. You watch, you listen, even if you like him or not. So it's a good element to bring him into the heavyweight division. Obviously, you've still got loads of other fighters there. It's just the division in the boxing at the moment where there's so much competitiveness, so many boxers who are just they're ready to pounce on all the big fights. There's going to be so many big fights coming in the next couple of years. We've got Fury, Parker, AJ, White, Brown. I'm probably missing something a bit. Wilder.
It really is the best year, or sort of the best era in a long time for heavyweight boxing. There are so many big fighters or tough fighters, that really are dominating this division, and adding someone of Tyson Fury's caliber, even though I personally don't like the bloke, because it just does my head in. I can't deal.
I want to know why you don't say, because I like Tyson Fury. I think he's a bit.
So I understand that with boxing you have this almost facade that you have to kind of be over the top, and slam each other and make each other get riled up and get under each other's skin. And I just think the way Tyson Fury does it, I can't explain it, but I don't like it. Conor McGregor, when he shut down Floyd Mayweather, or whatever he said to Floyd Mayweather in the lead up to their fight, he exuded this kind of extreme confidence that he genuinely believed he was going to beat Floyd Mayweather, which everyone knew was not going to happen. Or some people had hope, but most people knew it was not going to happen.
Yeah.
Best boxer of all time, or best boxer of this generation, certainly. So I don't see the same thing from Tyson Fury. I don't know why. I don't get that impression. I get the impression of, you're arrogant. And yes, you could say McGregor's arrogant, but he comes across more like a cool obsession with himself. Tyson Fury just comes across as someone who's very introspective and all about himself, and I just can't deal with that. The way he talks about Anthony Joshua, and I'm not a massive Anthony Joshua fanboy, but the way he talks about other boxers as if they're nothing.
I got a few points to this. Yeah, obviously, say talk about the boxers, but do you think he just does that just so he can obviously bring more viewers in, more fans in?
Probably, yeah.
And
that's probably
it brings more of a attention to the fights. Another one is, do you think he deserves the right to be a little bit arrogant? He's never lost. He's currently, well, he calls himself the heavyweight champion of the world, but he only lost his titles because of what happened obviously outside of boxing. Does he deserve the right? Is he allowed to be a little bit arrogant? He's never lost. He's obviously outboxed one of the best heavyweight boxers in Vladimir Klitschko. Do you think he deserves the chance?
Who else has he fought of significance other than Klitschko?
That's the question.
See, my issue is Klitschko, yes, one of the best boxers of all time, at least this generation. Great boxer, great guy. Joshua fought him and Joshua struggled. That is the only thing that I think Fury hangs on to. If Joshua had beaten Klitschko easily and hadn't gone down twice, Fury would have nothing to stand on, because Klitschko's at the end of his career. He's 40 plus now. Obviously, he's now retired, but around the time, I mean, yes, he was still the heavyweight champion at that point. Klitschko, I mean. But it's not like Fury was fighting him in his prime. And I just think, I'm not taking it away from him at all. It's a fantastic achievement, and he has every right to be proud of what he did. But to really use that as a stick to beat other boxers over the head with and say, you're not the same as me, you can't do it, look at me, I'm great. I don't like that approach. And it's obviously just me, because I know he's a massively popular person amongst a select group of people online and boxing fans. And I do think it'd be great to have him in the division, because more competition, more opponents for Anthony Joshua, better fights, and at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants, to be entertained. So I think he's definitely going to be a good introduction back into the fold. But just I won't be rooting for him. Let's put it that way.
The thing is, with his, what people don't, and I think underestimate Tyson Fury, is how good of a boxer he actually is. His boxing skills are probably one of the best in the heavyweight division, if not the best. He's so intelligent in the ring. That's one of the things he prides himself on, is his boxing intelligence. But he's able
in that sense, it'd be really interesting to see him come up against someone like Deontay Wilder, who isn't a great boxer, but he's got a rocket of a right arm.
That's the situation with every boxer. If you're against Wilder, he's always got that one punch, and you could be out. So, but it's similar, because obviously you go, when Wilder eventually faces AJ, I'm guessing AJ is probably going to defeat Parker. I'm going to assume.
We'd hope so.
I'm assuming he's probably going to knock him out within 6 to 8 rounds. And then, obviously, Wilder will end up facing AJ at some point. And I do fancy AJ in that fight, obviously, because I think he's a better boxer than Wilder. But obviously, you can never know against someone like Deontay Wilder, because his punch, his one arm, just as soon as he catches you, you're gone. Good night. But if Joshua catches him, it could be good night as well. And
his stats are ridiculous as well.
Yeah.
Joshua's knocked out everyone he's fought, but Wilder has 15 more fights under his belt, and his knockout percentage, his unbeaten run, is phenomenal. And you look at him in the ring, and he does look like an animal. He does look frightening. But obviously before Joshua gets there, he has to get past Parker, which I'm the same as you. I feel quite confident that he can do that. Parker is by no means a chump. He's world heavyweight champion in one of the whichever one it is, one of the divisions. But he doesn't come across the same as someone like Joshua, who's just a physical specimen, a machine, and the same with Deontay Wilder, who's just an animal. He doesn't come across like that to me anyway.
No, he's it's hard to. He hasn't really faced anyone of any caliber except maybe Henrikh Fury, you could say, which he did defeat in points. But other than that, there's no one you can compare. It's like you can't compare him fighting someone to what Joshua's fought or what Wilder's fought.
Fury's fought.
So it's hard to say how good Parker actually is, but he is unbeaten, and you can't take that away from him at the moment.
Certainly can't.
But I think
he's a champion.
You've got to fancy. I think he's just a level below the fighters like AJ, fighters like Wilder, fighters like Fury.
And I think especially with Anthony Joshua, he goes from strength to strength every week.
I just think that'll show when they fight eventually in Cardiff in March. Obviously, as I said, with Fury coming back, I'm excited. I can't wait for him to come back. As we've already clarified, him coming back will be more entertaining. It'll help the heavyweight division. And it'll be good to see if he can actually get to where he was before. He put on so much weight. Is he able to get it all off? And is he able to come back as the same fighter he has been? And that's going to be the question when he comes back.
What would be an interesting fight, I think, is seeing someone who's probably lesser than the likes of Joshua and that take on Fury now, because if he's coming back from fitness, he's not going to be sharp as he was. He's going to be getting back into his groove. So from both perspectives, it's a good warm up for him. But if the lesser boxer can beat him, it's a great scalp. Someone like
Povetkin, maybe Alexis Povetkin.
I wouldn't say Tony Bellew, because Tony Bellew is really new to the division, but someone along those lines who has that kind of raw aggression and fancies a challenge and just thinks, right, I'm going to try and take him on. This is probably the best chance I have of beating someone like him. And if I win, then I'm great. I've got this big boost status. But if I lose, it is Tyson Fury.
A lot of boxers have lined up fights. Obviously, got AJ Parker. Obviously, Wilder's got Ortiz. Obviously, Dillian Whyte is actually coming up against Lucas Brown, which we'll touch on in a moment. But someone who hasn't got a fight at the moment, who's quite high in the other division, is Alexander Povetkin. He's someone maybe Fury could look at as his comeback fight, someone like that. But David Price apparently has also been lined up to fight Povetkin in his comeback fight. So I don't know. It's a lot of so many fighters in the heavyweight division now. You can think he can fight him. He can fight him.
It's great. It really is. The fans can pick which fighter they want to fight who, and they have great sort of fantasy matchups, and it really is entertaining. It's going to be a good year for boxing. I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
On something that's happened recently, Dillian Whyte's fight against Lucas Brown. Obviously, it's turned into a bit of a rivalry. Obviously, after the recent press conference, Dillian Whyte's been calling Lucas Brown a racist, a junkie, calling him a walking STD. Some fans think he maybe went too far, but I want to see what your opinion was on obviously those type of comments.
I think it's really interesting to gauge where fans think too far is.
Yeah,
because it's so much part of the show now that other than Anthony Joshua, and even he slipped in recent months, there aren't any boxers who kind of come up and go, this is just what I do, my job. I'm having a fight. I respect him, but I'm going to beat him. They don't do that. They all have to slug each other off. That's part of the game now. They all have to ridicule and belittle and get under the skin of everyone. And it's strange. It's strange to see the fans go, wow, that's a bit too far. That's what they all do. What do you think anyway? Because obviously what he said is absurd and it's over the line. But then it's no different to what anyone else says.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with what he said. Just because that's what boxing is now. When it comes to these press conferences, those are the type of comments that get thrown around all the time. It's not really that personal at the time. You're just doing it to try and get in the other person's head, to try and get some entertainment, try and get some fans involved. Obviously, you just want to build up the fight.
From my point of view, I think if you were to mention someone's family, too far, cross the line. But in terms of two blokes, you think of two blokes fighting each other. I think anything you say about that man that you're gonna look at across the ring, it's fair game. Because at the end of the day, you're getting paid very handsomely out of it. It's a grudge match. You want to put them off any way you can. And if saying something silly in a press conference makes his game shake, puts him a little bit off, rattles him, then it's obviously going to be so beneficial for the one who says it because they have an advantage.
Onto that actual fight though. What do you think? Does you think Dillian Whyte has over Lucas Brown? Lucas Brown obviously is unbeaten. He had obviously a couple of recent positive tests, but obviously they've turned out not to be as bad as obviously initially thought. you think Dillian White has what it takes? Obviously, he's only ever lost to AJ. He's not lost since. So do you think Dillian White has the ability to defeat Lucas Brown? It's going to be in the UK as well, so Dillian White does home advantage.
I think he can, but I don't know if he will. I know, like you said, he's only lost one fight against Anthony Joshua, but he was so poor against Anthony Joshua. He was being walked around the ring. He was just shaking all over the place. He was a real mess. And he didn't look fit, and it was just a nightmare. But when he's in his element, he is a good fighter. And, I think it's certainly something he could do. I don't know whether he will do or not, but I'm interested to find out. What do you think? Where would you lean?
I lean slightly towards Dillian White. I think he's just, in his head right now, his motivation is he wants to get back in the mix of that heavy division. He wants to get back at AJ. He wants to get back at the big boys.
Certainly does. I think after he was dubbed as sort of the biggest opponent Joshua would face by a long way, and he was made a mockery of. So I think he certainly wants to prove, hang on, I'm not a joke. It was a bad fight, but I'm here and I'm here to stay.
I think in that fight, I think I'd lean towards White. With the AJ Parker fight, I'm leaning towards AJ. I'm guessing you're the same. Yeah. Wilder Ortiz unbeaten, Cuban.
Wilder.
I'd probably go the same. Obviously, Tyson Fury's come back. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, who his come-up fight will be against. But sticking with the heavyweight division now, bring a different sport in the UFC last night. I'm not sure if you watched it. Did you watch the UFC card last night?
No, I didn't.
Stipe Miocic broke the record for most consecutive defences in the heavyweight division of the UFC, with 3 consecutive defences now. Defeated Francis Ngannou, who was big, powerful, knocked out the last couple of opponents cleanly. It was a huge result for Stipe Miocic. He's called himself the GOAT now.
I did see a stat. Was it 77% hit?
Yeah, he had
77% more punches landed, or
punched like Ngannou. I think it was 233 to 30 odd. 5 takedown attempts. Something ridiculous. He just absolutely destroyed him. Absolutely dominated the fight. He went 50 to 44 on all 3 scorecards and proved how good he is, and he is the real deal. His next up could be Cain Velasquez, which will be a tough fight. I think a lot of people think Cain Velasquez is the best heavyweight in that division. So it'd be interesting to see if they fight before the end of the year and see who is the best, who is the greatest heavyweight in that division. Obviously, if any of you want to give any of your opinions, tweet us at UTF_podcast. Anything you want to say, comments down below as well.
Do the same with the boxing as well. We want to know if you're a fan of Tyson Fury, who would you like to see Fury fight next?
Who do you think Fury's going to fight next? Do you think Fury will be able to get back to where he used to be?
Give us your dream matchup between Tyson and whoever he's going to, or Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Tyson Fury and whoever he's going to fight.
The other big fight that was in the UFC card last night was obviously Daniel Cormier making his return since the John Jones loss and whatever happened with him. He was against, not sure if to completely say his name, but Volkan Ozdemir or whatever. It was obviously he dominated that, as you expected. Really, he's only ever lost to John Jones. He's probably one of the greatest light heavyweights, and he's obviously looking to move forward in the division. And there's a lot of big fights ahead for him towards the end of the year. Volkan just a level below at the moment, despite knocking out his previous opponents. So yeah, it was a decent card overall. There's a lot of knockouts, a lot of good performances. So I'm looking forward to what the UFC has for the rest of the year. Obviously with Conor maybe going to come back in future as well.
I think fighting in general, it's a really good sort of era for fighting. Yeah. UFC is obviously growing exponentially all the time, and boxing is as popular as it has ever been. So I think it should be a good year to see on both fronts, on UFC and for boxing, how things go.
And obviously, what we want to go on as well, which is on tonight, is the NFL and the 2A.
So again, you shall know what the scores are before we do.
Yeah, you'll know the scores before this comes out.
Just our last little story. We think it's not as big over here as it is over there, but it's still
growing.
A big thing.
It's growing.
It's growing, and we like it. So
obviously I'm a New England Patriots fan myself. Obviously we're playing tonight against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and obviously in the NFC Championship game, you've got the Minnesota Vikings against the
Eagles.
Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously Philadelphia Eagles had the best record in the NFL over the regular season, and Vikings got lucky last week against New Orleans Saints with that winning the last play of the game, just because of a missed tackle by Marcus Williams. So obviously Diggs got the winner. I'm sliding towards, I think, the Philadelphia Eagles will defeat Minnesota Vikings quite comfortably, but it will probably be a close game than I'm imagining right now. And hopefully, with the Patriots-Jaguars game in the AFC Championship, it's pretty much offense against defense. The Jacksonville Jaguars defense is just unreal. Jalen Ramsey's cornerback, a few others, just exceptional. Callie Campbell. And obviously the Patriots. There's been a lot of question marks this week over Tom Brady's fitness. He's missed out training a couple of times. He hasn't took a full part in a couple of other sessions. He got a hand injury. It's a big doubt on whether he will be fit enough tonight. What do you think? Do you think it'll affect the Patriots tonight?
I think Patriots will be fine without Brady. But obviously it'd be massive if he's part of the team. But I'd love to see them not win. I know you're a Patriots fan, but Patriots are that team now where Tom Brady plays for them. One of the best, or at least regarded as one of the most popular.
He's the greatest of all time.
Quarterbacks of all time. I'd like, and I saw a stat where the Jaguars have had since 2011 have had the 5th worst in the defense in the league, in the whole of NFL, the 4th worst, the 2nd worst, the 3rd worst, and now they're in the championship game. And I'd love them to go on and just beat the Patriots. It'd be fantastic. And the same with the Minnesota Vikings. What I watched the last quarter against the New Orleans Saints, and when they got the last minute, there was a 60-yard walk-on touchdown, went off. The crowd was mental. It was so good. And I'm not even a Vikings fan. I don't really have a team, but even I was like, "Yeah, go on Vikings!" That was great, and I'd love to see them take on the Eagles, who, like you say, are one of the best defensive sides in the NFL this season, and just take it to them. Really go for it. Wear the heart on the sleeve and go for it. And do you know how mental would it be having a Vikings and a Jaguars Super Bowl? I think it'd be fantastic.
Is that what you're going
I'm
with?
all for it. Yeah,
I
don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be Eagles against Patriots, but I'm fingers crossed.
So we're both thinking, obviously, who is the Super Bowl going to be? Obviously, you just want the other two to win, but who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? Obviously, we'll have a closer look at the time when the Super Bowl does come around. But what do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? The 4 remaining teams.
I think the Eagles. I'm going to go with the Eagles. Yeah, I'm going to bet against the Patriots.
I'm not going to bet. I'll say against my own team. Yeah, I think Brady's getting his 6th ring, and
he's not going to do it.
Bill Belichick. It's just happening. I think that's what's going to happen.
No chance.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything at all?
No, I think that's about it. I think we've covered everything we were going to cover today. So
yeah, I think
good first episode. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so did I. Hopefully you did all at home as well. Obviously that's all for this week's Under the Floodlights podcast. All our social links are in the description. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.